Damned FBI.
Now I'd like to recognize Dr. Goodspeed. You may provide your testimony.
Thank you, Chairman Krishnamurti, Ranking Member Cloud, members of the subcommittee. I'm the Kleinheinz Fellow at Stanford University at the Hoover Institution. And from 2017 to 2021, I was Senior Economist, Chief Economist for Macroeconomic Policy, Vice Chairman, and ultimately Acting Chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, in which capacity I advised the U.S. government on its response to the coronavirus pandemic. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today about a macroeconomic issue of utmost concern to the U.S. economy, namely the fact that inflation in the United States has recently hit levels not observed since 1981. And indeed, if we look at measures of core or underlying inflation, they suggest that underlying inflationary pressure in the United States today is higher than it was 3, 6, or even 12 months ago. I submit to you today that the primary cause of the inflation we have observed over the past 18 months cannot be a factor that is global in nature, supply chain disruptions, port closures, corporate profiteering, because the timing and the magnitude of the initial surge in inflation in the United States was so much earlier and greater than that observed in other major economies. So of the 46 major economies tracked by the OECD, to which the chairman earlier referred, the increase in the average rate of inflation in the United States in 2021 over its pre-pandemic level was greater than in all 45 other countries, with the exceptions of Brazil, Turkey, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, countries which I do not typically think of as paragons of fiscal virtue. Euro area, and take a harmonized index of core consumer prices so that we are comparing apples to apples. In the 12 months through February 2021, core inflation in the euro area was 1.1% versus 1.0% in the United States. In the 12 months since February 2021, which takes us right up to the invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation, the increase in the rate of inflation in the United States was 4 times that in the euro area. What happened in March 2021? Well, 11 months into an economic expansion, we had a deficit-financed fiscal stimulus equal to almost 10% of the entire annual output of the U.S. economy. I repeat, a deficit-financed fiscal stimulus equal to 10% of the annual output of the entire U.S. economy. The immediate impact of that was that demand for goods in the United States surged 11% month over month. That is a 240% annualized rate of growth in demand for goods. That's a lot. That is a lot. And we poured this demand onto a supply side of the U.S. economy that was still recovering from the pandemic, with 3.7 million Americans still reporting that they didn't look for work in the past month because of the pandemic. Worse than that, provisions in the American Rescue Plan in March 2021 exacerbated that supply-side recovery by raising implicit marginal tax rates on the return to work. So we have this big increase in demand, a further impairment to the recovery and supply. That gap between supply and demand has to go somewhere, and in 2021, it went into prices. And one of the lessons of the 1970s is that once you get a big inflation shock, like we saw in 2021, it can quickly become self-sustaining as households and businesses and workers begin to incorporate that inflationary shock into their price expectations. Now, we've heard here today, what we've heard here today is that this is instead, this 4-decade high inflation is instead the result not of supply and demand, but of what would appear to be unprecedented corporate profiteering. For that hypothesis to be true, 4 questions must be answered. 1, why did we only observe this in 2021 and 2022 and not in the decade preceding? 2, why, until the invasion of Ukraine, was this only observed to such a level in the United States versus in the euro area, for example? 3, why would this cause an increase in the overall price level rather than an increase in relative prices in specific, more concentrated sectors? 4, why should corporate profiteering in 2021 have resulted in an increase in inflation, the rate of change in prices, rather than a one-off increase in the price level? I have not heard answers to those 4 questions here today. Thank you.
Say no to communism.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.